Now, 2 in 5 of us don't know which party they'd prefer to manage Brexit. Labour actually leading that by 1 percentage point, but it's an interesting one. Let's talk to the man who conducts the People's Poll, academic and professor of politics, Matt Goodwin. Morning to you, Matt. Let's kick off with lockdown, should we? A lot of people seem surprised at this. I've got to say, I'm not really, but it is a bit of a vindication of the government's position.
Well, to some extent it is. I mean, a large majority of voters have always supported the lockdowns, but I do think it's significant that 15% of people now are saying that actually they don't feel particularly, in hindsight, they don't think lockdown was the right decision. It'll be interesting to see if that number begins to move as we get more information about how these decisions were taken, as we go through the public inquiry about the lockdowns. But yeah, most people still, in hindsight, remain supportive of that decision.
And the context of all of this is quite interesting, isn't it? Obviously, we've got the lockdown files coming out in the Telegraph every day. This is day 3 of it so far. I've got comments about the police today. But 50% of the public in favour of an immediate public inquiry into the COVID pandemic. Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I mean, in some senses, not really, because we're getting all of this information. And as you just said in your earlier segment, I mean, it's quite clear that there was a whole other conversation going on in government about the lockdowns, and the decisions were not always, as we were told, rooted in science. And I think, for the government, this is deeply problematic. On the one hand, Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives are trying to get back on their feet, and we'll come back and talk about that. On the other hand, this is really reminding people that actually during COVID, there was a lot of inconsistency, there was some hypocrisy, there were contradictions. And I suspect that's why we're seeing these big numbers saying, actually, let's get everything out into the open. Let's have a conversation about what happened. Very small numbers of people, less than 10%, oppose the idea of having a public inquiry about COVID. So this issue is not going away anytime soon.
On the back of all of this, the party polling is it tightening 4%? I mean, that must be pretty much within the margin of error, isn't it, in all of this? But a 21-point gap is smaller than it's been for a while.
Well, it's the highest Conservative share of the vote that we've had since December. If you look at all polls, not just a People poll, the average Conservative vote is up from 23% when the Conservatives decided to go with Rishi Sunak to over 26% today. So a very small shift, a visible shift, but a small shift. Labour remain in a commanding lead in the polls, again, more than 20 points ahead of the Conservatives. Here's the thing, though, just keep an eye on this. If you voted for Boris Johnson in 2019, you're probably feeling a little bit disillusioned right now, because what we can see is about a third of that vote, about a third of the people who voted for Johnson are now currently sitting it out. They're saying, I'm not really sure who I'm going to vote for. Now, if all of those people decide at the next election, look, I'd rather go with Rishi Sunak than Keir Starmer, then this race is going to become a lot closer. If instead they say, you know what, I'm just fed up with all of them, I'm not going to bother casting a vote, I tried to change things, it didn't work out, then we're looking at a Labour majority government. So keep an eye on those undecided Conservatives.
But could this be a sign of the Conservatives getting back on their feet? I mean, it was a good start to the week, wasn't it, for Rishi Sunak with the Windsor framework? And these results would suggest that it's going in the right direction, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to somebody around number 10 in the week, and what they will tell you is, Rishi Sunak is beginning to find the narrative that he wants for the next election. I'm the quiet Prime Minister getting things done. I'm sorting out Northern Ireland. I'm standing up to Nicola Sturgeon. I'm bringing down inflation. I'm starting to take action on the small boats. That's the sort of narrative that they're going for ahead of the next election. And they will be taking some comfort from the fact that the parliamentary party has quietened down. I gave a talk to MPs earlier this week, and I was quite taken aback by just actually how much support there was actually for number 10. Even Boris Johnson has kept himself relatively quiet this week. So it may be the start of a new mood around the party. There may be a sense of, look, actually the election is not that far away. It's next year. Maybe they need to get together and rally behind number 10. So keep your eyes on what happens. As voters tune into the next election, I think we are going to see a lot of movement. I think they will start to question the Labour Party a bit more. Is Keir Starmer really up to it? And that in turn will have effect.